sometimes you need to stop, take note.
Sure.
And then,
And so, to that end, what do you feel is missing from the 08, 09 cycle?
From 7/1 of '08 through 6/30 of '09, there was no budget submitted with the report to be withdrawn.
I'm sorry. No
From
budget-
to draw the money out,
No budget submitted to whom?
there was no budget submitted to Karen's office with the paperwork
For the,
to withdraw the money for the RCD.
what do you, to withdraw the money? I don't understand. what you mean.
I think.
To put it on the tax roll,
To place it on the roll, okay.
Correct.
So no budget to place it on the
no
roll.
budget was submitted with the quote certification papers to the auditor.
So you, procedurally, they have to have the budget and this. and
Right.
that,
And the-
so, yeah.
According to the
Okay.
water code, public resource code and everything, that there's a bunch of them that all entails the same thing.
So that issue applies to only the 08, 09?
That was the only issue with 08, 09.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
From 7/1 of '09 to 6/30 of '10, there was no budget submitted with it, nor was the Board of Supervisors notified, as it states in the water code and the court docs. 7/1 of '10 through 6/30 of '11, there was no budget submitted to the auditor's office. 7/1 of '11 through 6/30 of '12, there was no budget, and again, the supervisors were not notified.
As a question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Because this came up, I mean, obviously it came up in the discussion we had even with LAFCO on the district type matters. When the term is used notifying the supervisors is, I need county council some, that can mean a whole host of things. Does that mean that each of us get served a copy? Does that mean it's filed with the clerk of the board? Does it mean, is it filed with the chief administrative officer, who is the chief agent of the board? I mean, is it filed with the chairman of the board? I mean, in other words, when that term is used, because, you know, one party may decide that, you know, by giving it to the clerk, that's been satisfied. They've given it to another agent in the county. They gave it to the chairman of the board, and that person received it, probably not realizing it's possibly even being a document that they need to turn into some other office to be filed or kept in the record. I mean, to me, that one is a good question. Just because somebody emailed somebody in some office on the pretext that they're notifying the board does not constitute that the board has been properly served or properly given the notice. And it could be all over the map, and you could be sideways in a heartbeat now.
And that is why, for so many documents, there is a properly served document that goes with it. But I think, Richard,
What, I can speak to the most recent years without researching. I don't know what was sent to the Board of Supervisors. I know as tax collector, I've received the notice of apportionment, and it has identified as being CC'd on the letter that I received, the county auditor and the chairman of the Board of Supervisors for those two.
So the chairman would be the target for that. I mean, because like if it's served on you, it could be served on somebody at your front counter. It could be one of your deputies who works for you. Obviously would take
Right.
that serving and go put it on your desk, so obviously there's a record of it coming in. But, you know, the reason why I say that is because, I mean, I've chaired the board off and on, and I've, you know, I mean, in terms of getting documents that are served, I've always been under the impression the way it was set up is that anything of an official record needs to go to the clerk's office so it can be properly recorded in. Just the fact that I received it does not necessarily constitute, and I've even, from time to time, will get like a letter will show up in my box and it'll be from the state controller's office, and it's probably some sort of a legal thing, and it was addressed to me, but I might have been chair like 2 years before they hadn't updated their list or anything. And so the first thing I do is I usually go in and give it to somebody, say, I think this is something that you should have, I mean, I received it, but it's not, you know, can you stamp it in, give it to Regina, give it to Susan, give it to whoever? But I think that's something that we as a board have never had any real discussion about. So I can see people out there thinking they fulfilled certain responsibilities when they may or may not have, because what is the proper sorting of the board? And I think we probably should look at developing some guidelines that can be, you know, used in the future, because this is an ongoing thing.
Can I just suggest, we do need some work on that, but we should just quickly address your.
Right. And if I could just try to.
Otherwise, we could talk about this for 15 minutes.
No, we could, but I just want to throw, that's
No,
something that
it
we
is a
need
good
to talk
point,
about,
yeah.
because when Mr. Trask
Yeah.
uses that as it relates to what the court requires, what the code requires and stuff, I could see this thing being, you know, it's
Yeah.
totally wide open and swirly.
Can I clarify just one
Sure.
thing before we move forward? I'm familiar with the Water Code 4275 that requires the RCD in this case to provide a certification to the county auditor, the board of supervisors, and the tax collector. That's different than the budget that they adopt and submit to their users. That in June 15th is when they do the budget, and August 15th is when they present the certification to the county auditor. And I'm not sure that the same requirement applies to the budget that does to the actual certification. And I just wanted to see if you agree with that or disagree.
According to the way I read everything, no, I don't agree with it.
So why don't we just keep getting a list and then come back, instead of debating each issue? We'll hear all your
Yeah.
concerns and address them.
Good
accordingly.
idea.
Yeah. Okay, so, we'll just carry on and we'll keep writing them down.
That was one point that I was going on, that Karen's office does know what's going on, even though that she says that everything is done, and she's also said that she's looked at the quote audits that were done for 2011 and 2012, and she says that everything is fine with them. Well, questions have been brought up, but I don't know how many RCD meetings, and anybody can tell by looking at the audits that come, when they both say 11 and 12, your beginning fund balances and your ending fund balances have aligned. Now, there's absolutely zero. And everybody's been asking, why is that, when if you go back over to the deferred part in it, it's showing over $209,000 in deferred watermaster income on the RCD side, and nothing to do with the watermaster side.
But those questions you're just bringing up now, shouldn't those be for the RCD board about their budget? We need to know your questions on, this agenda item is how the fees are imposed. If you have queries about how they're doing their budgets and.
No, I'm not bringing that up to you guys. That is with the RCD board, which we haven't got an answer yet. I'm just saying that
All right.
Karen looks at them and says that everything is fine with them.
So we need to comment on the accuracy or how Karen.
Of what audits that we do have.
Okay. I'm just trying to keep it to what we as a board could help.
Again, Mike's referring to requirements in the government code that require the auditor to do certain things. And again, that is an independent elected official of the
And she
county,
addressed that at that
Yeah,
last meeting.
not-
Yeah.
not the board of supervisors. So just
So we'll give
one
you
clar-
a proper answer in writing to that.
Yeah. That's good.
Because in 2000, or July's grand jury report that came out, it specifically lists Karen's office and what the failures are in her office to have all the audits done per, Richard sent me a letter here back in February of 2011. And it specifically gives the government codes 26,900 through 26,915. And the first one is the county auditor shall either make or contact with a certified public accountant to make an annual audit of the accounts and records of every special district within the county. And she has not done that.
Okay, but we've written that down, that's gonna be addressed. I think give us an opportunity to address the questions now. Is there any other queries other than the budget you have?
Just that both the tax collector and even though I have a copy of Mr. Egan's letter here to me, there is certain things that he's even concerned about, and he's even asked for copies of the budgets and everything for the prior years, which we can't get anything. Even the tax collector can't, but yet they still collect our money, and our due process has gone out the window to get anything accomplished on it.
Okay. Richard, just so we make sure Mr. Trask is on board, just for the record, so what are the, can you just list out the items that we're gonna give him answers to?
Sure. As in regards to the 09, or I'm sorry, 08, 09 budget, Mike suggested that it was not, that budget was not provided to the Board of Supervisors. With regard to the 9-10 budget.
The budget was not even provided to the auditor.
Or auditor, okay, right, auditor and the board. In 9-10, no budget to the auditor or the supervisors. In 10-11, again, no budget provided to the board or the auditor. 11-12, same thing. The audits from 11-12 include fund balances that are zero. We'd like that answered. I think that's a question for the RCD, but we can respond to that. We would like the accuracy of the audits addressed. I think that's an issue that should go to the auditor. And the failure of the audits prior to 2010, failure to complete audits.
Correct.
Okay,
And-
thanks.
and-
Is there anything not on the list that you'd like us to look into that has to do with the county?
There is one, and I gave Tom a copy of it the other night, so he does have one, but this was a deal that I gave to the RCD board that night, and it concerns the appointment that you guys have made to that board for their board members. And since you guys did not do it, that came from county council back a couple of years ago. And it basically states in there that RCD has no authority to appoint their own board members. That per that resolution that came up, duly rests on this board to do that.
Okay, we're gonna address that too. We'll put that on the list. Yeah, that's going on the next round, yeah. Okay.
I can make
Mike,
copies of it.
I mean, is.
Yeah, because that's my only copy
If
that
there's
I have.
nothing, no other queries, we're gonna move on, but I do appreciate it, and we're all sharing your frustration, I'm sure. I wouldn't like to be imposed the tax bill and not have any reason why or where or how to
I
change.
appreciate the time for me to.
Thank you for coming, yeah.
Mr. Bentley's also in the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi. Yeah, I was gonna ask if there's anyone
And it's like,
else. I was gonna ask if there's anyone else. So is there anyone else who'd like to talk on that?
Yeah, that's good. As long as I get.
Okay, what's your
that, 'cause
address?
I've got that copy, Mike, in my house.
Yeah, Tom's got one, I gave him one.
Okay,
at
and I
the-
have to make a card at today's record, because it was
Okay, yeah,
presented
that's fine.
here, okay?
Thank you, Mike. All right, Mr. Bentley?
Yeah, for me, John Bentley, I'm still on the RCD board. Anyway, as far as some of Mike's questions go, there's been a budget every year. I mean, he even took part in making the budget last year. As far as the procedures go, I don't know if they were all done right up until 2009, 2010. We've been trying to move forward and do things right, but as far as this year goes, which Mike's upset about, is he didn't have his 2 weeks to file a complaint, I guess it is. We didn't have a meeting for 2.5 months, okay? And you know the reason for that, so, you know, I think we should try to answer Mike's questions and go from there, but I think the bottom line on it is, you know, Mike's at the end of the ditch and he's paying for water that he's not getting, but a lot of us do, so, you know, that's where the problem's down. You know,
Thank you.
can't get water out of a rock.
Thank you for coming and thanks. Sorry you had to wait so long. Thanks. We have, you know, there are actually 4 items that are gonna take some time, mainly the public works on the new board chambers project, the Beaver one-stop, actually 3, then the capital improvement plan. I mean, basically, we have to take a short recess, and I could see these taking at least an hour and a half, if not longer. I know it is unfortunate. Some people have been here for a while, and going forward, maybe we could just try and, we gotta figure out a way that's a packed agenda to have a way where people know it's gonna be, just anticipate a lunch, and then even if we didn't need to, then we just get a 2.5-hour break, I guess, and come back, because it must be very frustrating to be here at 10:30 only to find your items to be taken after lunch, and I really apologize, but I do.
Let's take a recess and go to lunch.
Okay, but I'd like to get, I know Julie's here, she came for this G2, and I think she doesn't need to come back to lunch. And for those of you that have to come back to those items, I'm sorry, I'm sure Jeff will get a bill for it, so I'm not, so good for you, but.
I'm not paying.
Julie, would you, thanks Julie for coming, and sorry to it was brought up about the frontier, did we bid that out, or did other companies get a chance to participate in that?
Absolutely. I'm happy to talk about this. This is critical to Lassen County's IT infrastructure. The staff has been working very diligently on this, and what we're trying to accomplish is to build redundancy. We have a connection right now that is serving the entire county needs. It's 16 megabytes. It served its purpose, and it's been around for over 10 years, but we've outgrown it now. So what we're trying to accomplish at this point is we are prepared to move forward with this Frontier line, and that's the one that's going to go through Palo It's 50 megabytes. It's going to provide us a connection to the rest of the world this way. We are also going to be coming back, and that one qualifies for the California Teleconnect discount. So that's the contract that's to the board today for approval. What is also being worked on right now is we are going to go to get another 50 megabyte connection to Reno through Plymouth Sierra Rural Electric, so that we can have connection to the world that way. So what ultimately this means is if one of those connections goes down, right now if our connection goes down, we're down. And we can't function and we can't provide services that rely on IT.
That's what happened at Palo last week. It was down because of some,
20 hours.
yeah, it was not good.
So the connection to Reno will qualify also for a USAC discount. That is to get an E-rate discount, and that those programs, what we're trying to do with that connection will qualify for a discount. So ultimately what we're trying to do is provide 3 times the amount of speed, 2 different directions of redundancy for the same or less cost. So that's what we're working on. That's the big part of our project. Those are the only 2 providers right now that can provide those to us at these costs. So that's where we're trying to
Can
go.
I ask you a couple questions? Right now, what are we paying Frontier for their unreliable system?
We pay our T1 line through MCI right now. I believe that was prior to me arriving at the county, but that's been our main line to the rest of the world.
Okay.
We have a cable modem with Frontier, and I don't have,
Well,
Robert Talley's not here, he's he's at training this week, so he can't support me with this, but I
Okay.
think it's $69 for the modem that we're paying, so, and that is through Frontier. But that's just a cable modem, so that's not, so our MCI line is our main connection.
so that's a satellite feed then? It's not a hard line feed?
I believe it's a hard line. The MCI connection is a hard line. 16, less than 16 megabytes, and it's been here longer than I have.
At one point, there was 4
Where
T,
did that
at
come
one
from?
point, there were 4 T1 lines that came in
Right.
Lassen County that were brought in. And MCI partnered with Frontier or whoever, but they were the main owners of this.
Okay.
And so the county secured one of those, but it was one of the original lines, and that was probably back in the late 90s is what my guess would be, you know, give or take a few years either way.
So what's your reliability with these guys now?
With- with
last week I was down 3 times with Frontier. And I know that's just gotta, the whole county's gotta come to a stop when that happens. And so I think we have to really take a hard look at their reliability,
Well, what will
no
happen now
matter
is,
which way they're going.
if one or the other goes down, we will be able to connect to the world through one. So ideally, we'll have more speed because we're gonna have 2 different directions to work with. From a technical standpoint, maybe we'll utilize some on this and some on that one. But if one of them goes down, that's the redundancy we're looking for. We'll go the other way and the entire county can go through that. Although with all of us going through one pipe might be a little slower than with both.
Okay. I have a little bit of knowledge about Columbus Sierras, and I'll have to recuse myself from any kind of vote. But they have redundancy in their system already. And they won't be going down. They've got satellite backup also. If somebody starts a fire underneath the line and the line goes down, they can switch quickly over to satellite. And I'm really hoping that is brought into the context of this RFP. And I'm not so sure that we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges with this thing. And I would really like to revisit that RFP process, to make sure that we're talking about the same thing.
Do we have the ability to revisit this, or, I mean, what's this time, can we get?
I think if we don't do something soon,
Yeah, but
we're
do
not
we
gonna be
have-
able to function. We really aren't able to do the Granicus project and the permit tracking system. Those systems that are relying on cloud support,
Right.
we just don't have the bandwidth. We
Right.
just are slowing ourselves down
Understood.
to unproductive. So I think we need to move forward. Certainly, come and talk to me about the process and we'll get Robert in as to what we're trying to accomplish, but we just need to do something. We're not functioning well.
Absolutely, and I understand that. I understand that the present system that we have right now is not good.
So if we do something in the next 3 or 4 weeks, is that good? Or does this have to be decided on today?
Could you address this as it impacts the Veteran Service Office?
That is a piece of what we're trying to accomplish. That's not the piece today.
Okay.
The piece today is just to get us an increased speed so that we can not have some of the issues that we've had.
Well, I guess, is it the pleasure of the board to have another company like Tom brought up, from the Sierra, have a look into this? And if it is the pleasure of the board, I would be procedurally know how to unwind the clock, because we've approved this already, the consent calendar. Or is it the pleasure of the board to?
Right, the strategy that I gathered from what I'm hearing from staff is they're going both ways, so it's not an either or.
Sure.
And so I think the action, at least for the time being, is, what we've taken action on should sustain itself. And I would suggest that we keep that going. And I think what Mr. Hammond is saying is obviously, I think as time goes on, I think those folks are gonna become irrelevant and the other folks may become the dominant one, and they will shake themselves out. But right now, I don't think you can, because we still haven't got things set up, so you can't like convert over tomorrow. I guess you could, but I mean, I guess you can't convert over tomorrow the size of group that we have right now. And it sounds like you're already working to get that established, and that's the key thing, is I think more redundancy is there. So, I mean, a lot of things, you could have a redundant system, but that system totally collapses, you still have another back door. I mean, the good thing for those of us who were shut down by Frontier, they were my primary portal. I couldn't run my desktop computers, but between the iPhones and the iPads and stuff like that, we were able to take care of business and communicate, and that was kind of a built-in redundancy. And that's kind of hard for the guy running the check stand down at the supermarket, but but it does take care of other business, and you just have to deal with those eventualities. But I think to just say, well, let's rescind the action and abandon whatever that relationship is with the existing provider in hopes that something is going to evolve here in the next few weeks with this other provider. It sounds like we're going to have both. I'm in favor of having all those doors open.
Okay, very good. Yeah, thanks. And then I just wanted you to explain, it was something that come up, so I need an explanation. Sorry I had to wait. We're gonna.
It's okay. We really need to improve our system, and we need both to be able to provide the services to the public.
Oh, okay, thanks.
That's the staff's recommendation.
Before, thank you. Before we close out this item, I just want to ask for public input. Eileen, just to say your name for the record.
Eileen Spencer, I just have a question for Julie and the board, whichever can answer it. At the July 23rd, 2013 meeting, this board approved a $27,000 piece of software called Granicus. Are you telling me that nobody told Julie that she couldn't, if she spent $30,000, she wasn't gonna get to install it? Because it's still not up. And I just don't understand why the board is not told that this $30,000 software package can't work, because it hasn't been installed.
I don't, is this to do with this item? No.
Yes, I want to know if they knew at the time this software was purchased and approved by the board, that it couldn't be installed because of this issue.
I don't think that's where we are now with that project, but
But you
certainly
said
it's gonna
Granicus.
operate. It
Okay.
will operate and function better
Hold on.
with the new,
Excuse me,
more,
Richard,
bigger-
does this question have to do with this? item?
No, I think we're talking about two different things. We're talking about internet capacity
Right.
versus
Okay.
installation of software. And I don't think one is
Okay.
holding up the other.
Thanks.
She mentioned it, that it can't be installed.
I-
That's my question.
I
Okay,
didn't
we're gonna
know that.
finish this item. We're gonna be recessed. We'll come back at 12:30 or 1:30 for the balance of the meeting. Thank you.